Stud Muffin 1986 here. Welcome back, everyone, to World of Tanks Blitz. If you go into the game right now, you'll see a couple new tanks in the store. One, however, is a package deal. The first one is the Tier 8 Premium American Chrysler K. The second one is the Tier 8 Premium Russian IS-2H. I'll both be going over. I do have a replay of the Chrysler K at the end of this. That I think will give you a good feel of the tank as an honest replay. I do not have the IS-2H, so I don't have a replay of that one, but I will be going over the stats of both tanks just to give you guys a good idea of what these tanks are like, and hopefully it'll help your decision if you're interested in looking into these two things. So first off, the Chrysler K. I actually really like this thing. There's some things about this tank that, in my opinion, are quite incredible. But you can get a little overconfident sometimes with your armor. And it has really, really good armor. But it is one of those tanks you do have to be a little careful about when coming across Tier 9 tanks. So when looking at this thing, here's some things that are quite interesting about this tank. So when you compare it to other heavies, its cannon, you do basically trade your cannon for your engine power to weight ratio / armor. So your cannon, when you're first looking at this thing, it may not have as high of a DPM, or the rate of fire may be a little slower, but in my opinion, it definitely compensates for that with its engine power to weight ratio / armor, which in my opinion, is very good. So you've got an okay cannon. Pretty standard alpha, for an American tank. Weapon handling, its accuracy is okay. You're going to want to carry APCR with this tank. And you do have 10 degrees of gun depression. However, in order to reach that 10 degrees of gun depression, you need to be looking off to the side with your tank. What I mean is, like, you have to have your turret facing off to the right or left of your tank to be able to get that maximum 10 degrees of gun depression. You can't get that when you're just looking straight ahead and trying to move your cannon down. I think you get about 6 degrees of gun depression, so that's what you can expect there. Now This is where the Chrysler K shines. Look at its maneuverability, its engine power to weight ratio. This thing is pretty impressive, and you can get somewhat of an idea here looking at it compared to other heavies, but let me just show you what it's like compared to other medium Tier 8s in the game. Just look at this. Your engine power to weight ratio is about the same as what you get with medium tanks in the game, but you get the good armor with it as well. That, in my opinion, is where the Chrysler K shines. And for the amount of gold it is in the store, I personally think it's worth it. I have a lot of fun with this tank. However, like I said, you do have to be a little careful. The armor is good and trollish, but you do need to be a little careful with it, especially coming across Tier 9 tanks or like same tier, higher tier tank destroyers. But yeah, when coming across like other medium light tanks, they're going to have a really hard time trying to get around you. Your maneuverability in this thing is very good and can be very trollish against those tanks. When you are on a hill or a slope looking down, obviously that's where you're going to be able to maximize the strength of your armor. And you can see here, I mean, the thing can be a little difficult. The turret itself, it's very, very hard, and honestly, the turret, because of its maneuverability, and when you're moving around with this thing and keeping it front facing, I honestly don't know if I ever really get penned through the turret. I mean, if I'm like face hugging like a German Tier 9 tank destroyer, yeah, that's probably not going to be in your favor, and you probably will get penned. But you can see that you've got to be, in some cases, depending upon the tanks that you're coming across, you do have to be a little careful, and you have to be conscientious of how your armor is angled and the way that they're facing the enemies. But all in all, it's a pretty good tank, and that armor can be quite trollish. So before I go into a replay of the Chrysler K, let me just touch on the IS-2H. So like I said, I don't have this tank. My brother has it. He's a better player than me, and he has told me he doesn't care too much for it. I can't remember exactly why why he said that. I think it might have been the armor was a little weaker. You can see here across some stats on what it's like. I mean, it's basically a classic Russian Tier 8 heavy tank. You got the classic Russian cannon, the maneuverability, like the feel of it's going to be very similar to what you get with the other classic 400 average damage cannon heavy tanks in the game. The armor, I did notice, looks in 10 can be a little weaker, and but yeah, it's not a tank that I personally really cared for. I've never purchased this thing. I've never had the desire to get it. So take it for what it's worth. It's just my opinion. I would say that the biggest difference between the IS-2H compared to the other classic 400 average damage Tier 8 heavies in the game is it's a rear-mounted one, or a rear-mounted turret. So anyway, we'll go into a replay here. This is Stud Muffin 1986. This is a replay of the Chrysler K. And once again, this should give you a good feel of what the tank is like. And how effective the armor can be when you're using it correctly, and how it can be a little bit less effective when you're over-angled just slightly. So hope you enjoy and hope this helps. You guys stay cool and keep tanking.